I'm Don Ameche, and I'd like to take you to Hudsonville, New York, in the countryside made famous by the story of Kip Van Winkle and his 20-year sleep. More recently, Hudsonville has been of another story, this time about one of Rip's descendants. We call it the legend of Kip Van Winkle.
And this is my street. We're coming to the home of the Van Winkles, the house we've been renting now for 5, almost 6 years. And just about any week morning, you'll find me having a leisurely breakfast before strolling off to catch the bus that meets the train that takes me into the city. Registered letters are not part of the daily routine. Somebody must be awfully anxious to get paid. $2 for a paper, a dime for a magazine. They're small amounts, but when you put them all together, they add up to just about what I make. A nickel for the bus, a nickel for this, and a nickel for that. And when you're through, there's not much left over for such things as education or a home of our own. And the bills. 12 cents a quart for milk, $40 a month just for food, and another 30 for rent. Well, one letter that isn't a bill. We wish to extend our sympathy upon the death of your great-aunt, Maria Van Winkle. However, we are pleased to inform you that Miss Van Winkle remembered you in her will with a bequest of $8,000. 8,000 simoleons. Thank you, Aunt Maria. What am I running for? I'm practically a rich man. This is one day I'm not taking that ride into the city. I've got a lot of plans to make. Yes, sir. Garden equipment. I could sure use a new lawnmower, and I may just buy one. And that house of ours could stand some interior decoration. I can afford to give it 3 coats now. Hey, it's about time to retire this old suit and get something brighter. Maybe 2 or 3 of them, and some shirts. Those are beauties. I think I'll need about a dozen. There's nothing in the world like having $8,000. But wait a minute, Kip, old boy. That $8,000 could be gathering 4% interest and send all 3 kids to college right here. And the beauty of it is that an education for the kids isn't all $8,000 will buy. We could take $1,000 of it and make a down payment on a house out here in the hills overlooking the Hudson, right on this very spot. I know old Savorn is trying to sell these lots for around $1,000. Might have to pick up a car to get to the station, but I can buy that on time. Yeah. The Van Winkles are on Easy Street now. I'll just stay on my job and go on using my salary for the day-to-day expenses. There's nothing like the security of money in the bank. about that? I dropped right off to sleep. The letter. Well, I'd better get on home and surprise Jane. Oh, amazing what a little nap on this damp ground will do to a man. Why, Savorn must have gone crazy, asking $3,000 for lots way out here. Have I gone crazy? What in the world? Why, I've been asleep for months, maybe years. Oh, the Van Winkles have gone and done it again. I'm a spectacle in my own hometown. Let's find out what day or what year it really is. "1951. Could I have slept for 12 years, or am I seeing things?"
Yes, Kip, you are seeing things. Seeing how things have changed in 12 short years. 2 cents won't buy you a paper anymore. And that isn't all. Even if you had only half a day's growth of beard, having it shaved will cost you about twice what it did in '39. There have been a lot of changes, Kip. Yes, the newspaper is a good place to learn about some of the changes in 12 years, and also some of the reasons for those changes. We borrowed to get the goods on that dictator Hitler, and we grew so used to spending money we didn't have, we just kept right on. Now we're borrowing again to handle the new dictator. The cost of defending ourselves has soared sky high too, and for the same reason, the supply of money has outstripped the amount of goods available. Suits, like everything else, are up. Costs up, prices up. No wonder, Kip, you're startled and dismayed. But it's the same place you always shop. A short walk down the street will show you how general this thing is. That's not bad for a shirt these days, Kip. And the cost of mowing grass has jumped just like the cost of mowing whiskers. And oh yes, remember that 1939 model you were going to buy? This is a 1951 model with a 1951 price. Whether it's paint for the bedrooms or the brush to put it on with, costs on the average are twice what they were in '39.
But what about my $8,000? That was going to put us in a home of our own and put the kids through college. And while I've been sleeping, the money has lost about half its value. And even if it had been in the bank gathering interest, it would still be worth less than it was in 1939. I don't know. How can a man get into such a fix just by going to sleep?
We all have been asleep, just like Kip Van Winkle. We have been asleep, and inflation, a pickpocket, has been stealing our food, our clothing, our comforts. Your money is worth only 1/2 of what it was 12 years ago. You have been robbed of 50 cents of each of your dollars. And if something isn't done about it, the other 50 cents may well disappear. We will wind up broke and helpless, as individuals, as families, as a nation. How does this happen? It happens when we run up a huge government debt. We as a nation buying on borrowed money. It happens when credit is loose. We as individuals buying excessively on borrowed money. Inflation is easy money in circulation, more dollars than there are products to buy. Unless we take steps to lick inflation now, this nation can go down to the worst defeat it has ever known. Throughout history, inflation has had violent results. Insurrections, strikes, bloody uprisings, the flight of gold, loss of working capital, fear, hardship, hatred, revolutions and counter-revolutions. It can happen here, but it will not if we do something about it now. The steps are clear. Avoid borrowing to buy needless things and make sure that our government curtails its lending activities. The Federal Reserve Board should continue its commendable efforts to restrict inflationary private bank credit. Pay willingly all necessary government costs as we go. 3 out of every $5 of personal income is not subject to income tax. Some of this income can only be reached through a consumption tax on everything but food, rent, and personal services. Spend wisely as individuals and see to it that our government spends our taxes only for absolute essentials. Produce more by working with greater efficiency. All of us, management, labor, and agriculture, and demand top efficiency in our government too. It will take the same vigilance, courage, and determination on our part as our soldiers must show on the battlefield. We must depend on our military might to defend us from communism abroad. But here at home, we must depend on ourselves to save our country from the disaster of inflation. Inflation is our fight.
Yes, Mr. Ameche, no nation can be strong if its money is diluted. A sound dollar is the key to a sound government and a strong country.
This is Michael Thompson. He was born this morning. His heritage is good. Strong, healthy stock, no hereditary defects, no family history of abnormality. What kind of person will you be, Michael Thompson, after the world has made its impress on you? What kind of a world will you live in? This is the town you'll grow up in. This is the street where you'll spend most of your early years. This is the house where you will live. Your first school. And the people. Who are the important people in your world, Michael Thompson? There's old Mrs. Radis, who lives next door. She doesn't like children very much. Then there is Homer Buchanan, who lives nearby. Homer likes children. And there's Mr. Perry, the milkman. And Andy, the grocer's clerk. The postman, who comes every day. And the policeman who directs traffic at the school every afternoon. Then there's a whole succession of school teachers. And children in and out of school. In a few more years, a baby brother. And most important of all, your father and mother. This is your world, Michael Thompson, and the important people in it. The people who will love you, who will push you and pull you, help you and hinder you in your job of growing to be a man. Let's look at your world a little closer, Michael, and see what it will do to you. Let's start with your father, Daniel Thompson, and your mother, Elizabeth Channing Thompson. They love you very much, Michael. They want you very much.
But he's so red. There's nothing wrong with him, is there?
No, he's a fine boy. I think he's beautiful.
Yes, they want you very much, Michael, and they have definite ideas of what they want you to be. Preconceived ideas, dreams that will influence the way they act.
Michael F. Thompson. You're going far, son.
Your father expects big things from you. He wants you to be better than he is, to grasp the opportunities he missed, to realize his unfulfilled aspirations. And your mother expects things, too. She wants you to love her as much as she loves you, to need her love, to need her care, now and a little later and forever. Dreams, Michael. All parents have dreams. Everyone has dreams. Most of the time, they don't even know they have them. In a few days, they take you home, and some of the most important days of your life begin. You need a nice, warm world, Michael. You need loving care and gentle affection. You need a happy, secure home. And your parents give you everything you need, Michael, gladly and easily, uncritically, because now you are exactly what they want, what their dreams want. Everyone knows what a little baby is like. Charming, helpless, and appealing. Your father and mother know it too, Michael. They don't expect you to be anything else. And then you start to grow up, Michael, and there's a wonderful excitement about every new thing. Well, about almost every new thing. There are some new things that don't quite fit with your mother's dream. You're growing up now, and you don't like to be cuddled all the time.
He never lets me hold him anymore. Michael, take that dirty thing out of your mouth.
Let him alone. He's growing up.
And very often, Michael, the things you do, the things every baby does, don't always fit in with your father's dream either.
Does he have to be so messy about it? Here, let me feed him. Eat. Eat.
Let him alone, Daniel. He's just a baby.
First, Father says, let him alone, he's growing up. And then Mother says, let him alone, he's just a baby. Why don't they let you alone? Each of them has a dream about what he wants you to be. Each tries to mold you according to his dream. Mother can't let you be independent. Father can't wait until you're ready to do new things. Remember Mother's dream? She wants you to cling to her forever. Remember Father's dream? He wants you to grow into the ideal he has set for you. Michael, you're growing up the way you have to grow up. Doing what you have to do. Exploring new things, going back to old things. Even when it's not quite the way your father expects it to happen. Even when it's not the way your mother would like it to be. Well, Michael, you keep on growing. And as the years pass, there are other times, happy times too, many of them, when what you really are comes very close to what your parents think you should be. You've learned to feed yourself pretty well by now, a little closer to your father's dream of you. And when it's time for bed and your mother tucks you in, you come a little closer to her dream. Sleep is good, Michael, when you feel secure with your parents, when you know they love you. But sometimes, when you wake up and the night is dark and quiet, you get a little uneasy. For little children, there's something strange about the night, something unfriendly. Even your toys don't comfort you. And you need comforting, Michael. You want your father and mother. Nothing very special or urgent about it, but what will happen, Michael? Will your father get angry and say,
Get back into bed right this minute.
is that what's going to happen, Michael? Or will your mother get her worried look and say,
My baby, come to Mommy.
is that what will happen? Will they make more of this moment than is really there? Or does this happen? What ought to happen? You see, they can modify their dreams, your father and mother. They can sometimes break away from their fixed ideas of what you ought to do and be. It seems so easy for them to spend a few moments making the night seem warm and friendly again, so that you don't mind going back to your room. But it isn't easy when Mother wants to keep you a baby and Father's impatient when you act like a baby. As a matter of fact, Michael, you're a little of both. Sometimes a baby and sometimes quite grown up. No, it isn't easy, this business of growing up. It isn't easy in the outside world either.
You stay away from my flowers, Michael Thompson. Go on, scoot. Scoot.
There is no place in her dreams for children, Mrs. Radis thinks little boys are horrid monsters who want to trample her flowers. But Homer knows they're not monsters. Homer can accept boys and girls pretty much as they are, and he likes them that way. Children don't get in the way of Homer's dreams.
Oh, fine. Bring them down. Come on, we'll put them on. All right, fella. Come on, out here. Let's put the gloves on. Come on, give me a right one. That's it.
Children love Homer because he always lets them try out new things without forgetting that they're still children.
Now, come on, hit me. Hit me. Oh, hard, 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 hard. Oh, oh, oh.
Wonderful man, that Homer. That's right, Michael. Take it home, that wonderful experience. Take it home and share it. Your father's pleased. He understands about these things. But your mother is upset because, well, she doesn't want you to learn things like boxing.
Boxing gloves? Where did you get those from, son?
Uncle Homer gave them to me and he taught me how to box them and I knocked them down.
Oh, he did, eh? Well, let's put these on and let a real expert show you how to use them.
Why does your father have that edge in his voice? Is he hurt because he wasn't the first to show you?
The first thing to do is to get your position right.
Why does he have to make this a lesson?
Lead with your left and cross with your right. Go on, cross with your right. Now, the main thing is to keep moving all the time. Keep jabbing, keep coming in. Keep your guard up. You're wide open now. Jab with your right. Watch your chin. Got to learn to defend yourself. Watch it now.
No, it isn't easy to grow up, Michael. Especially when your father expects so much of you. When he's got a dream, he wants very much to come true. And it doesn't quite come true for your dreams either, Michael.
And in a few weeks now, Michael, Mommy's going to the same hospital where she had you. You remember, the building with the white pillars. And she's going to have a little baby for you to play with.
That's right, Mike. Then you'll have a brother to play ball with.
Don't say that, Daniel. It might be a girl.
Nonsense. It'll be a boy, and we'll name him Robert.
You're so sure of yourself. Why, ever since I played with dolls, I've wanted a girl baby.
Dolls? Don't be silly, Elizabeth. Wait till you see him, Mike. You can teach him to ride your bike and box with him and...
All you think about is boxing, boxing. Remember the white pillars, remember the white pillars, remember the white pillars, remember the white pillars, remember the white pillars. Play with dolls, play with dolls, play with dolls.
Don't be silly, don't be silly, don't be silly, don't be silly, don't be silly. Box with him, 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 box with him.
Boxing, 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 boxing.
Why do you keep hopping on that?
You're just confusing the boy saying things like that.
Of course, Mike, you'll have to share your toys with him, but you won't mind that because you've got lots of toys.
I don't know why you do it, Daniel. I really don't.
I don't want a brother.
For children, the difference between dreams and reality is very slight. So slight that when the baby brother actually comes, Michael isn't very sure.
Be careful, Michael. He's very delicate.
Mustn't touch the baby son.
Is that my brother, Mommy?
Yes, Michael.
But he's so little.
What'd you expect? Someone as big as you?
What did you expect, Michael? Someone as big and frightening as your daydream? He cries when you touch him.
Michael, let that baby alone.
He's so little, but he can get you in trouble. You think he'll always get you in trouble. You think he must be your enemy. Will your frightening dream always make him your enemy, even when you are both a little bigger? Will he still be your enemy a few years later?
Now you stay here. I'm gonna go play ball. You better take me with you or I'll tell Mommy. Don't you dare.
That's the way it can be, Michael, when you have a preconceived idea about something, about someone. That's the way it is with everyone. Without our even knowing it, we try to make things happen the way we expect them to happen. That's the way it is with your parents, too. With your mother trying to make you into her dream. With your father trying to make you like his dream. They really don't want the same boy. And you can't make either dream come true. It never happens that way. Let's see what it might be like, Michael, if your mother's dream were the chief influence in your life. Your mother who protects you too much, who worries too much, who can't bear to let you grow up, to grow away from her. After a while, you even feel guilty about growing up.
Oh, my. To think that my boy is big enough for a suit like that. You don't think it's too old looking for him?
Gee whiz, Mom. You gotta let me grow up sometime.
Yes, Michael, she's got to let you grow up. But she'll do it grudgingly, unwillingly. It's the new things, like your first long pants, that make her feel lonely and old. She doesn't want to lose you. Every new thing, every first time, is a threat, an attack, aimed at her dream.
How does it feel going to your first dance, son?
Oh, all right, I guess.
Taking a girl?
Not exactly.
No, he's not taking a girl. Why do you feel so troubled, Michael? Is it because you know that you're not really what your mother wants you to be, her baby boy? Oh, you'll go out with girls before very long. But you won't be happy about it. You'll get married, too, but no matter whom you marry, there won't be much joy in it. Women make you feel guilty. All women. Just the way your mother makes you feel guilty. Yes, Michael, that's the way it would be with your mother's dream running things. But suppose instead of your mother's dream dominating, things happen, things always happen, the way your father's dream forces them to happen. Remember that night you woke up a little frightened?
Get back into bed. Get back into bed right this minute.
And that day Mrs. Radis chased you?
Stop sucking your thumb.
Remember when your new brother arrived?
Michael, let that baby alone. You ought to have better sense than that.
You see, Michael, it isn't that your father doesn't love you. It's just that he expects too much.
Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Pop.
Michael, come back here.
But, Pop, we want to go swimming.
Come here when I call you. What do you mean slamming that door that way? Haven't you got any better manners than that?
But, Pop, I was late.
Don't answer back that way. Have you cleaned up your room?
But, Pop.
Be quiet. Now go upstairs and clean up that mess.
It isn't easy with a father who won't ever listen to you, who's never satisfied.
I know he wants to go swimming, but we've got to teach him responsibility.
Responsibility. Yes, he wants you to have all the virtues, Michael. He wants you to be the strongest, the finest, the best of all. It's a good feeling when you win, Michael, when you're on the winning side. Your father should be pleased.
Pop! Hey, Pop! We won 8-5, and Johnny got a home run and a 3-bagger.
How many did you get, son?
I got a 2-bagger and a couple of singles.
Well, better luck next time.
Never satisfied. Always want you a little different, a little better, more like his dream. But you don't know about his dream, Michael, and you're all mixed up. Sooner or later, you stop trying. That's why you avoid those school dances. You want to go, but you're afraid. You'll come close, but you won't go in. It's hard to do anything when your father is always saying, don't do this, don't do that. Be the best.
Why don't you look where you're going?
He's wrong, but he makes you feel the way you do with your father. Afraid. A sharp tone of voice, a disapproving attitude, a person in authority. Any one of them can make you feel afraid, angry, resentful. After a while, it won't even have to be your father or anyone outside of yourself that makes you feel that way.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hiya, Mike. Well, did you get the raise?
Nah, I quit.
Quit? Why? What did he do?
Do? He didn't do anything. I didn't give him a chance. I quit first.
Not very pretty, is it, Michael? Either way, Mama's boy or Papa's boy. And they wouldn't like you to turn out either way, your father and mother, even though it would be their dreams that helped to make it that way. But let's go back to the hospital on that first day when the nurse took you to your parents. It doesn't have to happen that way, Michael, either way, because your parents can break away from the rigid patterns of their dreams, or at least they can learn to hold them back a little. Your father and mother don't have to be perfect to be good parents. They can learn that only by bringing up a child, you, Michael, for your own sake, can they get the kind of grown-up son they want. With parents who help you mature properly and fully, you'll have a warm, secure baby world where you are protected and loved and cared for. A world where you are free to follow the gradual, inevitable path to manhood at your own pace. And with the sympathetic and understanding help of your parents, Michael, you can succeed in overcoming childhood fears. You can avoid having any preconceived ideas that your brother is going to be your enemy. It's difficult for a small boy to understand what a new baby is going to be. And it's natural for him to be a little curious. Of course, he cries when you touch him, and you're distressed. But your father will explain things.
Your brother's a little young to play with just now. We sort of have to take care of him for a while, you and I. But you wait till he gets a little older. Why,
With your parents' loving guidance, you can learn to accept your brother. To accept him as a friend, an equal. With parents who can modify their own dreams to fit your needs, you can lead a happy and productive life, well equipped to make your way in the world.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Well equipped to make your way in your world.
He can't play. He's too little. He's not too little. He's my brother.
Maybe he is really too little, but Michael, you carry some weight in your childhood community. They accept your judgment. You're a person in your own right, Michael, grown and matured in an atmosphere of love and mutual respect, an atmosphere that encourages you to go forward joyously to manhood and maturity. An atmosphere that prepares you to find your place in the world with confidence and the best use of your abilities. You can be a well-integrated man, Michael, a whole man, well qualified to take your place in the family, the community, the world. You see, there are 3 Michael Thompsons, and probably even more. Those other 2 and this one. One of them will be you, Michael. The others, will-o'-the-wisps, might have been.
From the time you were born, the question of your career has always been important.
Look at him, Dan. Look at him smiling at the music. He's going to be a musician.
Not if I can help it. With that grip, he'll be able to swing a hefty bat. How about it? Big league for you?
And later on, when you were still in a playpen...
What a little man. Here's a present for you, Bobby. Now you can be a doctor, just like Dr. Mylan.
When you got to be 5 or 6...
What are you going to be when you grow up?
An acrobat in a circus.
Won't you be afraid of the lions and the tigers?
And as you grew older, your ideas kept changing.
That's what I'm going to be, a train engineer. When I grow up, I'm going to be a policeman and direct traffic. I'm going to be a truck driver and drive all over the country and go wherever I want to.
And now that you're in high school, you find that what you think about your future makes a difference in the things you do today.
You going to sign up for typing this semester, Bob?
Gee, I don't know. I can't make up my mind.
I am. You have to know how to type to be a newspaper columnist.
Columnist? I thought you were going to get married and raise a family.
Well, every girl has 2 careers, you know.
You don't have to know how to type to be a doctor, that's for sure.
You never can tell. You might not become a doctor after all.
Oh, yes, I will. Dad would have a cerebral spasm if I didn't take over his practice.
Gee, I wish I knew where I was headed.
I should think you'd go in for art. Those dance posters were swell.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to do.
So there you are. All your life, you've been thinking about a career. But maybe, like Bob, you're still not sure about what you want to do. Or, what may be just as bad, you have only one career picked out, like Janet, and you haven't even considered other possibilities. Or maybe, like Dick, you've let someone else choose your career without doing any thinking of your own. Whichever it is, it's time for you to face up to one of the most important matters of your life, finding a career in which you'll be happy and useful. There are 2 things you need to know in order to choose your career intelligently. For one, you must know something about a wide variety of occupations. And the other thing you need to know is yourself. Many tests have been devised to help you reach a better understanding of yourself. For instance, this one, called a verbal meaning test, lets you know how well you understand the real meanings of words and the ideas which they convey. This spatial ability test helps you understand how well you can think about objects in their solid form and in their relationships to other objects. This one tests your reasoning ability, how well you are able to work out the answers to problems you may be facing. This one tests your number ability, how skillful you are in working with figures. And the word fluency test helps you to know how easy it is for you to talk and write. There are many such tests, which your school counselor or someone else in your school can probably arrange for you to take.
Well, Bob, let's see. These tests show that you're especially high in spatial ability. That's ability to think about things in 3 dimensions.
Golly, I never expected that.
And the score on your number ability test is very high.
Well, I've always made good grades in math, Mr. Bolton.
Yes, that fits, doesn't it? You'll find that the grades you've made in different school subjects will give you a good idea of where your interests and abilities lie.
How did I make out in verbal meaning and word fluency?
About average for your age and grade in verbal meaning, below average in word fluency.
I've never been a great talker.
You're well above average, though, in reasoning ability. Here, this is the way it looks on a chart. You might call this your academic ability profile. This ought to go into your notebook.
Notebook?
Oh, it's not as bad as all that. This is something you get a lot of fun out of. Finding your career is a good bit like finding the solution in a good mystery story. First thing you do is build a lot of clues, then you pile them together until they point to the right answers.
How do you mean?
Well, you need a good loose leaf notebook like this one, something you can add to from time to time. You divide it up into 3 sections. In the first section, you build up a picture of yourself.
Oh, that ought to be easy.
I don't know. It's not as easy as you'd expect. You'll probably meet a lot of surprises as you build this picture. Now, in the second section, you list all the different kinds of careers that interest you. You make a list of things you want to know about each one, and then you study each one accordingly.
What kinds of things?
Oh, the type of work done in that occupation. Special interests and skills that are required. How much the job pays. Opportunities for advancement. Whether the job's actually to be done. All that sort of thing. I'll be very happy to help you work out a list of those if you want me to.
That'd be swell. What about the third section?
Well, you can probably guess what that is. In the third section, is an interest against the requirements and the opportunities of various occupations. In other words, the third section is a combination of the first 2.
I think I will start a career notebook. What else should go into the first section on myself?
Well, a record of the grades you've made in your different school subjects would certainly help. Why don't you have a little talk with your different teachers? I'm sure they'll be quite willing to give you a frank appraisal of your abilities and qualities.
Gee, I don't know, Mr. Bolton.
It's a chance to see yourself as others see you. I wouldn't skip it.
Well, okay. How about hobbies?
They certainly should be in there, too. And interests. We have an interest inventory that I'm sure will go a long way toward helping you clarify in your own mind just what your preferences really are. Would you like to take it?
Sure.
So Bob fills out an interest inventory. Here, too, the results are something of a surprise. He hasn't realized before how interested he has always been in scientific matters. His interest in mechanical things is high, too, and he has strong outdoor interests. Those are something of a surprise. His artistic interests are just as high as he has expected. Down it all goes into his notebook. Tests help, of course, but Bob learns a great deal more about himself when he talks with some of the teachers he knows best.
Well, I know writing isn't easy for you, Robert, but that's no reason for you to neglect it. I think your themes would be very much better if you'd spend a little more time on them. Particularly when you're so good in grammar.
Well, there is one other thing I think I'd like to tell you. When you're playing on a team, Bob, it seems to me that you depend too much on yourself instead of playing with the whole team. Now, I think that's something that you need to learn.
You're doing excellent work in class, Robert, particularly your sculpturing, which I think is even better than your painting.
And so Bob builds up a picture of himself as he really is. His mental abilities, how well he gets along with others, his interests, the grades he has made in his various classes, what his teachers think about him, the kinds of hobbies he has, everything he can think of. And now he's ready to start thinking about possible careers. From among the 25,000 different kinds of jobs there are in this country, how will Bob find the ones most suitable for him? Here's where the first section of his notebook helps him narrow down the field. He knows that he likes outdoor work. That means that he probably doesn't want a desk job where he would do most of his work on paper. He isn't too comfortable working with people. Personalities seem sort of puzzling at times. He'd rather stick to things that are more predictable, like facts and figures. He gets a kick out of using tools and doing things with his hands. So looking for jobs that match his interests helps Bob get closer to his career among the 25,000 choices open to him. And here's another matter that he must consider. How much time and money can he spend, or does he want to spend, on his education and training? Many jobs have definite educational requirements. To be a physician calls for at least 6 years in college. To be an engineer, you'll need a college degree. If you want to teach, you'll have to qualify for a teaching certificate. But you can get a job as a secretary or a bookkeeper after a year or two in a business school. And of course, there are many jobs available to a high school graduate with no further education. So the amount of education Bob is planning will affect the types of careers that he'll think about. And of course, it works the other way too. The kind of career you want will affect your educational plans. Now Bob is ready to find out more about the careers that interest him the most. The library is the best place for that.
This is our collection on careers.
Do you have any on art?
I thought you'd ask about that. Yes, there are several of them here. Here's one on illustration, and here's one on advertising. What about some other fields? You don't want to limit your search too soon, you know.
Well, that's right. I'd better check up on engineering, too. You see, my ability scores were pretty high in math.
What kind of engineering?
Oh, I don't know for sure. Civil engineering, I guess, and I like science.
I think these books will help you find out what you want to know.
Thank you, Miss Reed.
So now Bob goes to work in earnest on the second section of his notebook, a survey of possible careers. With Mr. Bolton's help, he has worked out a list of things he wants to know about each career that he examines, and he tries to find the answers to these questions. He learns as much as he can from books, but he doesn't depend on them entirely. For instance, when he can't find what he wants to know about a career as a research scientist, he writes to various companies for more information. And what's even better, he arranges to visit a friend of the family who is an engineer.
Glad to see you, Bob.
Oh, it's nice of you to let me come out here, Mr. Trimble.
Not at all. Glad to see you're planning your future so systematically.
You know, I read a lot about civil engineering.
Well, then you ought to have a pretty good idea of the work we're doing here.
It's not the same as seeing for yourself.
That's right. Well, if you like what you see and you're still interested, come see me next June about a summer job. Then you will really know whether you like engineering or not.
Mr. Trimble is right. The best way to find out whether you really like an occupation is to work at it for a summer or as a part-time job. But Bob isn't ready for that yet. He's still hunting. He doesn't limit his search to professional and white-collar jobs. For instance, he finds that a career as a skilled mechanic has much more to offer than he had thought. And he's particularly interested in the work of the tool and die maker. But on the other hand, he'd like to continue with his artwork, too. He considers window decorating and other art activities, such as advertising layout and commercial illustration. Although he still doesn't feel he has found the right career, Bob now starts building up the third section of his notebook. He compares his own interests and abilities with the requirements of the careers he has examined. He makes up a series of profile graphs to compare what he has learned about himself with the requirements of the different jobs he is considering. But this gives him only cues. There's much more to be considered, including the advice of his parents.
If you're really interested in civil engineering, I'm sure Mr. Trimble would help you.
The State University has a fine engineering school.
Yeah, Dad, but I don't know. I'm not sold on it. For one thing, I hate to give up my artwork.
Well, it could always be a hobby.
How about ceramics? You've always done such nice work.
It would be fun, Mom, but I don't know.
It seems that job opportunities in art are pretty slim.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But ceramics does seem to fit your abilities, both mechanical and artistic. I think that lamp you made is just beautiful.
It was fun making.
And so the search goes on. Each night, Bob seems a little closer to finding the right choice. And it's fun, just as Mr. Bolton had said, putting together the clues in a detective story. What will it be? Commercial illustrator? Skilled machinist? Ceramic designer? Mechanical engineer? Yes, they're all possibilities, but none of them seems right. There's no telling when a good idea may come, or what might suggest the vocation Bob will eventually choose.
Good morning, Dad. Hi, Sis. Hello, Mom.
Hi, this morning.
Hey, new dishes.
Yes, they're made of plastic.
Nice, huh?
Yes, they are. They're designed by Alto Scone.
Say, Dad, that's something I haven't looked into yet.
What's that?
Industrial design. Boy, that's something I'd really like.
Yes, that does sound like a good idea, Robert.
Well, have you looked into architecture? That might be something you'd like.
Golly, that's right. Industrial design and architecture.
And now, at last, Bob feels he is getting close to finding his own career. He doesn't have to decide at this time, of course, but the thinking he is doing now will pay him dividends all the rest of his life.
In achieving discipline, occasions arise when the supervisor must reprimand a worker. These situations must be handled carefully. The supervisor must have all the facts to make sure that the reprimand is deserved.
Brooks, when I give an order, there's a reason for it. Your failure to obey orders...
But, Mr. Cooper...
Just a minute till I finish. Then you can talk. As I started to say, your failure to obey orders has put me in a most embarrassing position. I told you distinctly that I must have on my desk on the 2nd of each month the statistical summary of the previous month's personnel estimates. You promised it would be here. I need it right now.
I haven't been here since Tuesday, Mr. Cooper. My little girl was operated on yesterday. I telephoned Miss Terry that I couldn't be here and asked her to complete the summary for you. I've been going over it with her and making a few changes. It must be nearly ready. Here she comes with it now.
Well, back to your desks.
The supervisor who reprimands unjustly loses respect and discipline. Personal abuse and sarcasm have no place in reprimanding.
Say, what's going on here? You better wake up and tend to business. Look at this. Are you blind or can't you read? See that word pink? P-I-N-K. Naturally, you aren't supposed to use your head on this job. You aren't supposed to be able to figure out that they ran out of pink forms and wrote the word pink on a white one. So when you put a rush dispatch marked pink into the finished file box to be buried, you are doing all that could be expected of you. Take this to the communications office right away, and don't let it happen again.
Reprimand should be given in private. Humiliating an offender is bad practice.
Robert, I hear that you've decided to be boss around here. I hear that you're giving orders to the other boys in the office. When Tom told me that you were giving orders, I told him then, as I'm telling you now, that all you boys are working together. No one is to give orders here except myself. That's all. Now let's get back to work.
Another way for the supervisor to weaken his position is to scold and nag for the sake of showing authority.
About ready, Agnes?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Miss Martin, Miss Holly, who told you girls to carry those trays out of here?
Why, nobody. We thought we'd begin moving them into the new office.
Well, put them on the air conditioner. I'll tell you when to go. Let me give the orders around here. There's no place to put your trays in the other office. Put them over there.
Say, that's a joke. There's an air conditioner in the new office. We could just as well have put our trays on it. Oh, she's just trying to show that she's boss around here.
Do not use threats in reprimanding. The victim in this case is a section head working overtime to finish up a rush job. He arrives a little late next morning.
Mr. Jones, I appreciate the fact that you worked late last night, but we must all set a good example for those under us. We have set up a rule here that when an employee is late without an excuse, he will be suspended for 1 day without pay. And if it becomes habitual, he will be discharged from the service. We can't use an employee who doesn't set a good example for his subordinates. Of course, in your case, you have an excuse, but no exceptions can be made. Remember that in the future. Our rules must and will be enforced. That'll be all.
No more voluntary overtime can be expected from this employee. How should a reprimand be given? This is the case of Miss Thomas, the girl who should be at this desk.
Hartnett speaking.
This is Edna Thomas, Mr. Hartnett. I'd like to have the rest of the week off.
Annual leave for the rest of the week? Have you filed a slip? You haven't. No, I can't make an exception, especially in your case. Of course you're a good worker. One of the best when you're here. Have you seen your attendance record lately? Well, suppose you come on in and take a look at it. And then, if you still think you can make a good case for being granted leave, I'll consider it. Goodbye, Miss Thomas.
Good morning, Mr. Hartnett.
Good morning, Miss Thomas. Won't you sit down? You see, in the past 8 months, you've taken 19 days of annual leave and 21 days of sick leave. You've been late on 31 occasions, almost once a week on the average.
I didn't realize my record was so bad.
Your lateness, of course, is bad. As for the leave, you had earned it, had a right to ask for it. However, a number of girls here have more leave coming to them than you've had, but they've taken very little of it. With this office as rushed and understaffed as it is, I'm very grateful to them. But you are setting a bad example. Have you thought of it that way, Miss Thomas?
No, I haven't.
Yet I can't expect the other girls to refrain from asking for leave if you continue to set the wrong example. Because you're the most efficient worker here, the others unconsciously look to you for leadership. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, now you know it. You've achieved a sort of privileged position in the unit. But what have you done with it? You've set an example of tardiness and remaining away from work whenever the whim strikes you. The type of work you do is rush work. And when you stay away, the other girls have to do it at the expense of their regular work. I don't believe you're making good use of your leadership. Now, Miss Thomas, if you'll make out a leave slip, I'm willing to approve it.
I'm not going to request leave, Mr. Hartnett.
Very well, Miss Thomas. Will you get these out today?
Yes, Mr. Hartnett.
Did you get that view shifts letter on one page?
Yes, by single spacing the quotation. I think it looks better that way, don't you?
Yes, I do. That's fine. Thank you, Miss Thomas.
You have just seen a reprimand handled properly. Can you apply these principles in situations that confront you?
Now, if you take out this ultra-comprehensive sum deductible type of policy, you're completely insured of an adequate income for life. That is, provided you don't have to fire before the policy does.
Now, would you mind going over that again? I don't quite understand about
Why, certainly.
this.
You see, it's really very simple. You pay this small premium here once a month for 20 years, at the end of which time you're completely covered for life. Now, isn't that simple?
Well, it sounds reasonable,
All
but...
right, it's a deal. Sign right here.
No, the proposition sounds interesting, but I believe I'll think it over for a few days. Thanks for coming over.
Well, I'll call in a couple days.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Sure.
That's funny. Thought I had him. Wonder what I did wrong.
Seemed like a nice guy. I wonder what he was talking about.
Do you know that every day someone loses a sale or creates a misunderstanding just because he does not speak intelligibly? Now, in the next few minutes, we're going to give you some examples of good and bad speech and show you the main faults of most speakers. We'll show you some things to do and some things not to do. The first thing that every speaker should do is to learn the 3 basic aims of public speaking. 1, you must be heard. 2, you must be understood. 3, you must be pleasing. Now remember these 3 points. You must be heard, you must be understood, and you must be pleasing. Now most of us fall short in at least one of these 3 points. For instance,
well, the fact is, we spent many nights in the jungle looking for headhunters. One night, just as the sun was going down, we heard a noise in the bushes. Something was creeping towards us. All of a sudden, it attacked us. It was an ostrich. Now, this ostrich was...
many of us clutter up our speech with uhs and ers. And in this way, we create vocal static. We can be heard, yes, and we can be understood, but we're dull and boring. Now, here's another typical example.
Student government is something we've all worked for. And now that we have it, we must make it work for us. We have all given our time and our ideas and our strength to make it possible, and now we must cherish it, nourish it, and make it live.
Most of her audience can't make out what she is saying. So she's not heard, she's not understood, and she's not...
The guy come up to me and he gave me a big song and dance about this being his seat. And I said, Mister, I said, this isn't your seat. You see, I've been sitting here a whole lot longer than you seem to think I have. And I think that since this seat belongs to me, that seat...
It's not hard to find fault with that speaker. Many of his listeners won't be able to understand him, and those that do won't admire him. Do you know that the trouble with most of the speakers we have heard can be traced to one thing? Practically all of us would be better speakers if it were not for this one big fault: carelessness. Yes, carelessness is at the root of most of the ills of poor speech. If this speaker would concentrate upon overcoming his speech fault of saying and he could be an interesting and effective speaker. Does carelessness make you this type of speaker? Now, this girl is marked by carelessness because she speeds over the words of her speech just to get them said. And she drops her voice at the end of sentences, so her audience has difficulty in hearing and understanding her. Is carelessness making you this type of speaker? Or is your carelessness the same as that of the man who runs his words together, mumbles, drops his G's, and uses generally sloppy speech? Have you found yourself yet? Do you know what your careless speech habits are? The important thing is to recognize the trouble and then take steps to correct it. Now let's see if we can help you. First, every good speaker should practice opening the mouth wider than usual as he or she speaks. In this way, the words can flow out and the audience can easily hear you. Speak with life and animation, yet speak deliberately. Use plenty of lip and tongue action. This helps you to enunciate clearly, so you will be understood. Speak in low, full tones, so that what you say will be pleasing and appealing to the ear. Don't let your voice be high, shrill, and unpleasant just because you're a little excited. Keep it low and pleasing. Speak with variety. Change pace so that each sentence doesn't sound just like the other. For if you want to keep your audience interested, your manner of speaking must be pleasant and interesting. And finally, let your voice and speaking manner reflect your own personality. Let it be sincere and typical of you, rather than stilted and stagey. For instance,
ladies, I'm so glad to see you all here and see you looking so well. Our subject this afternoon is flowers. Don't you just adore flowers? Honestly,
do you see what I mean? Now, what she really meant to say was this.
I'm awfully glad that you've come out today, ladies. Glad to see you looking so well. The subject of our discussion is flowers, one of which I'm particularly fond. I know that many of you, too, share my great enthusiasm for this subject.
The idea is to be interesting. Interesting but real. Now, are there any questions?
Professor Bueller?
Yes?
Won't people think I'm peculiar if I start speaking differently than I ever have before?
Now, that's a good point. But I don't think you need worry about it. You see, your speaking voice will become more adequate as you practice the rules of good speaking. And your friends won't think that you're peculiar. On the other hand, they're more likely to admire you for having improved your manner of speaking. Speak audibly, so you may be heard. Speak distinctly, so you may be understood. And speak with life and enthusiasm, so you may be pleasing. And remember that good speech will be a great asset to you all. Cultured person and a well-developed personality. Take pride in your voice and your manner. Take pride in the way you sound. Have only one voice. Be careful how you use it.
The ear is the human organ the public speaker is most likely to try to impress as he makes a speech. But did you ever think of the importance of the eye? The importance of what the listener sees as well as hears? Now just suppose you were a beautiful doll with rosy cheeks and big blue eyes. A doll that never talked. Or a tree that basked in the warm sunshine and rustled in the breeze. A tree that never spoke. Or suppose you were a spring flower, contrasting your gay colors with the blue sky. Do you know how you would be judged? You'd be judged mostly by your appearance, by the way you looked. Appearance is the basis upon which a little girl chooses a new doll. A man's prosperity is often judged by the appearance of his home, and thus is man himself judged. Yes, appearance is important. Appearance is a powerful factor, and appearance is something you can control. In public speaking, your appearance may make the difference between a good speech and a poor one. Your appearance may help convince your audience you know what you're talking about, or it may convince them you don't know what you're talking about. A good appearance is something that everyone should strive for, something everyone can accomplish. It begins with the feet. Seems strange, but having your shoes shined will help you make a better speech. It will help your general appearance and make you feel better. Then you should have your suit cleaned and pressed, just for your talk. This will help you look successful. Be sure to wear a clean shirt. And your favorite tie. Be sure your hair is neat and clean, and you're all ready to go. Yes, sir, you're all dressed up and you're ready to go. You feel great, but wait a minute. There's a lot more to appearance than just having your necktie straight, your hair combed, and your teeth brushed. The most important one element of your appearance is your posture. Your posture may be more convincing to your audience than the words you say to them. Depending upon your posture, this can be good or bad. Because your audience subconsciously judges you as much by what they see as what they hear you say, and they'll see you before they hear you. The effectiveness of a brilliant speech can be greatly diminished by poor posture. Why? Because your audience thinks about what they see as well as what they hear. If your posture is poor, your audience thinks, this poor fellow isn't sharp. He's weary and confused. He doesn't care about us, and he probably doesn't know what he's talking about. And you are puzzled. Why has your speech failed? Mister, you don't look good, that's why. What your audience sees is so bad they can't hear what you're saying. Now, good platform posture can be accomplished by anyone with a little effort and concentration. Good posture is first a physical matter. The body should be held erect and tall, with the head up. Secondly, good posture is a matter of the mind, your mind. In your thinking, you must convince yourself you will think tall, talk tall, stand tall, and walk tall. Remember that you must think tall, talk tall, stand tall, and walk tall. This will help you with your posture and your speech. Now, good posture serves more of a purpose than just making you look better. It helps you to be comfortable because it keeps you well balanced on the platform. Poor balance, along with poor posture, causes some of the characteristic types of speakers you have seen. This type knows his subject and has good control of his voice. But look at him. He looks almost too tired to stand up. He balances first on one leg, then on the other. He's the tired farm horse type. Then there's Miss Prim, the speaker who stands straight, tall, and rigid. She seems to be afraid she'll break, and she looks frightened and excessively formal. She keeps her feet clamped tightly together. We know her as the telephone pole type. Next we have the He-Man athletic type. You've often seen him. He stands with his shoulders back and his stomach out, and his feet wide apart. He looks undignified, and soon his awkward posture tires him, and he rocks back and forth for relief. He's the rocking horse type. Lastly, we come to the type who leans. He leans on the table, back of a chair, or anything handy. In trying to be nonchalant and at ease, he makes himself thoroughly uncomfortable. He is the turtle type. All four common types look awkward, partially because they're off balance. Good balance results from having the bodily weight well distributed on both feet, and in having the feet just the right distance apart for comfort. You can determine this distance by making the knee test. Place the palms of your hands on both knees and make an easy circular motion with the hands and knees. If your feet are the correct distance apart, the weight will be evenly distributed as you change position. You'll be well balanced and comfortable. You'll look poised and dignified. With your feet too far apart, you'll have difficulty in standing up. Because you're off balance, you may fall either forward or backward. With your feet too close together, you're still off balance, and you're uncomfortable. Try it until you find the easiest and most comfortable position. Then note the location of your feet. Always try to keep your feet in this position when you are speaking, and you won't have to worry about balance. And with good balance, you've conquered another phase of good appearance. Now remember that appearance is important, and that good appearance is easily accomplished. Just remember to think tall, talk tall, stand tall, and walk tall, and to achieve good balance. For good posture and appearance will greatly increase your ability as a speaker and a leader.
Was it really a victory for good government, Mr. Brown? Or was it a victory for propaganda?
That's quite a question, Chuck. Why do you ask it?
Well, we've been studying citizenship in school. In a few years, I'll start voting. I've been following the campaign. So much was said on both sides. I'm confused. How can you know what to believe when there's so much propaganda?
Perhaps I can help you, Chuck. I think the election was a victory for good government. It might also be called a victory for propaganda. But that would have been equally true if our opponent had won.
But that's what I mean. Everybody uses propaganda.
Oh, no, not everybody, Chuck. But propaganda is an important force in our society today. That's why, besides using propaganda, I've been studying it for some years. Propaganda made this picture. Propaganda skillfully employed to turn millions of men to a cruel hatred of their fellow men. On the other hand, propaganda often persuades us to help our fellow men. The products of our factories are also known around the world through propaganda in the form of advertising and salesmanship. The study of history reveals a great deal of propaganda that has been used to fight wars and win wars. Propaganda can also be used for peace. So you see, Chuck, propaganda is important. Well worth any time you give studying it.
I see that. But how can you study it?
Well, you can begin by investigating the techniques of propaganda. Here, I've listed some of the main ones. Glittering generalities, transfer, name calling, card stacking, testimonial, plain folks, and bandwagon. You'll find these techniques used in many places, in many ways, for many different purposes. Your job is to recognize them when you see them.
My first job is to understand what they mean. What is a glittering generality?
Well, let me see. That headline you were quoting, a victory for good government. Good government is a phrase we use many times during the campaign. We said the mayor stood for good government and promised good government.
But it's true, isn't it?
What's true? What does good government mean? Is the mayor's idea of good government the same as yours?
I see. It's a glittering generality.
One of the best.
There's another.
Yes. And why do you suppose our opponents chose that phrase?
I guess because everybody likes a real American.
Right. And they wanted to transfer that liking for a real American to Mr. Butler.
Then that's what you mean by the technique of transfer.
That's it. Now let's see if you can recognize another technique. A day or so after that poster came out, I said in one of my campaign speeches, our opponent advertises himself as a real American. I say he is unreal, unrealistic. He is a visionary, a theorist, a dreamer. He is so thirsty for public office that like a weary traveler in the desert, he sees a mirage, and he is trying to sell it to you as real. There. Now, what would you call that?
That's name-calling, visionary, theorist, dreamer.
That's right. And those are very polite names. But now I want you to listen to something else. For my collection of propaganda materials, I've made a special record of part of one of Mr. Butler's radio speeches.
Mayor Cooper asks that he be judged by his performance in office. Very well. Let's ask him who was mayor when the municipal waterworks fell into such a state of disrepair that the whole town was without water for 2 days. Let's ask him. But no, let's not. It might embarrass him.
You recognize the technique?
No, I don't.
It's a tricky one.
Is it true about the waterworks?
Partly true. That's what we call card stacking. Cooper was mayor when the pumping station broke down, but it was the men in office before him who allowed it to get into such a rundown condition, and it finally gave way before he could get anything done.
I see. And card stacking is choosing some facts and leaving out others, and arranging them to suit your purpose.
That's the idea. Now, did you see our little campaign movie?
Yes, a couple of times.
Well, let's look at it again as an example of propaganda techniques.
It was a testimonial, wasn't it?
Yes, we used other techniques, too. See if you can spot them.
Will you get the light, please?
Land sakes. A body hardly has time enough. The house to clean, and the washing to do, and the men folks to feed. They like their chocolate cakes, too. But I do want to take time to tell you that I've known Dick Cooper ever since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. He comes of a good, respectable family, just as honest as the day is long. And he knows our town. He's one of us. That's why I'm going to vote for Mayor Cooper. And all my friends are going to vote for him, too.
We'll stop a minute, Chuck. Recognize the technique?
That must be what you call plain folks.
That's right. You'll find many versions of the appeal based on the common man, the man on the street, log cabin to president. Now let's look at the rest of the movie.
Yes, Mrs. Hamline is voting for Mayor Cooper. Her friends are voting for Mayor Cooper. Your friends are voting for Mayor Cooper. The people know what they want, and what they want is Mayor Cooper. Don't you be left behind. Get on board the Victory Special. Vote for Mayor Cooper and ride with him to victory.
That ending's easy to spot. It's the bandwagon.
Yes, the propaganda we've been talking about is easy to detect. But a great deal of propaganda is much more hidden, much harder to detect.
That's what's bothering me. Even in a small local election, there's so much propaganda. That poster, a real American. It uses a transferred device. Does that mean it isn't true?
Not necessarily. Evaluating propaganda isn't that simple. Recognizing the technique is one step. Another step is to know the purpose. What is the purpose here?
That's easy. To get people to vote for Butler.
Yes, to persuade people that Butler is the better man, to move them to vote for him. In short, to sell Mr. Butler to the voters. You'll find that the purpose of most propaganda is to persuade people to believe something, to do something, or to buy something.
All right, but it still doesn't answer my question.
No. Your next step, and it's a big one, is to get the facts.
Well, is he a real American?
Howard Butler was born in this country. He obeys its laws. He's a good citizen. Yes, he is a real American. The same can be said for Richard Cooper. So ask yourself whether the facts support the purpose. Do they support the transfer of feeling from real American to Mr. Butler over Mr. Cooper?
No, I guess not.
Well, that's your fourth step. Weigh the facts against the purpose and the technique.
I think I understand. To know whether propaganda is good or not, whether it's true or not, I should know the purpose, recognize the technique, get the facts, and judge the purpose and technique by the facts.
But when you want the facts about live political battle, don't come to a campaign manager.
I might do it at that. But I will also go and see your opposition.
Well, that's all right. Whenever you're tracking down propaganda, get as many different points of view as you can.
Do you know something?
What?
I think that it might be interesting to make a really serious study of propaganda.
I find it interesting, and there's plenty to study. Here I have just a few of the many books on the subject. You can read them. You can keep your eyes and ears open for little bits of propaganda. And, of course, you can study whole propaganda campaigns. Here are a few on which I've been gathering material. Hitler and Nazi Germany had a campaign of propaganda that ran over many years. Then there's a wealth of propaganda to study on the subject of Russia and communism. There's propaganda to study in our own American elections, national as well as local, and in many of the major issues on which elections often hinge.
Well, if I don't learn about propaganda, it won't be because there's no way to study it.
That's right, Chuck. Remember the techniques of propaganda and use the procedure we outlined for studying it. Propaganda is a powerful force, so powerful that your study of propaganda is important not only to you, but to me. and to the world.
I'm Ronald Reagan. I'm speaking to you now not as an actor endeavoring to entertain you, and certainly not as an announcer speaking for a sponsor. I talk as Ronald Reagan to you, American citizen, concerning the Communist Chinese appraisal of our national character. Did they have our number? Was it all enemy tripe? We began to learn the answer when the Communists released back to us the several thousand men they had held for nearly 3 years and could teach us important things about ourselves. What things? Certainly not that they let down their country. On the contrary, many acted with honor and great courage in the face of a strange new enemy who behaved in wholly unexpected ways. Statistics tell only part of the story, that a terrible death toll occurred, that escapes failed, that only a few men resisted so actively that they had to be heavily guarded. The more important lesson reaches far beyond the camps in North Korea. The prisoners' hardships demonstrated what is required of men who would preserve freedom in the face of its enemies. Our freedom has richly blessed us, but freedom is a dangerous and demanding adventure. It has permitted lavish rewards for men's labor, great comfort, security, convenience, and vast opportunity. A seductive combination that obscures the demand freedom makes for responsibility, for honor, for effort, vigilance, and the jealous protection of other men's rights. The communists found some support for their charge that we're passive, uncommitted to a definite system, sometimes opportunistic, self-seeking. But these failings are shared in some degree by all of us, even though you and I are not now living in the misery and hardships of wartime captivity. Our prisoners were part of ourselves. What they did or failed to do reflects our acts, our failings. What must be understood is that these failings can undo freedoms dearly purchased, isolate the individual even as he becomes submerged in the mass, erode our political and economic and social system as effectively as any shooting war. And they can do so even if no communist or other tyrant exists anywhere in the world. The hard test of durability of our traditions and beliefs, so cruelly condensed in Korea POW camps for an unfortunate few, continues today. That test can be failed when men vote uninformed, or don't vote at all, in the polling place or the union hall. When college students can accept cheating as generally done and therefore all right. When men who are sincerely honest in their own eyes can expand an expense account or kick back to the customers. The tests will predictably be failed by children so blessed that they have not been seriously and repeatedly challenged, have been promoted in school, though failing, out of fear that failure will hurt them emotionally, have been spared hard work and spared the certain knowledge that acts bear consequences. A child so blessed in youth is destined to fail in the serious struggles of life, for he has not been forged and tempered by trials and labor and challenges as he grew. Yet freedom, this dangerous adventure, requires for its perpetuation men and women willing to exert great effort, willing to seek unpopular truth, suspicious of easy solutions, able to make informed decisions, and prepared to act on them with courage. Communism is designed to control human beings through coercion, cutting off information, isolate the individual, submerge in the mass, encourage conformity and passive, uncritical acceptance of authority. All this we saw in communist handling of prisoners. Communism has been a singularly successful tyranny so far, as it has engulfed more than a third of mankind. Our men in Korean captivity, like most of the people held in this new tyranny, did not accept communism. But not all of what they heard there was foreign to them, for the groundwork had partly been laid right here at home. In some degree, then, we fail our test in small ways and large ways, when we do to ourselves the very things the communist tries so hard to do with his captive peoples and captive nations. The cheating businessman and the cheating student alike hasten the process. Those who seek more and more relief from government to solve the problems of life, old age, unemployment, guaranteed security, who are willing and eager to have hard decisions made for them by remote authority, they hasten the process. Our enemies are largely within ourselves. Indifference, passiveness, a lack of standards and values about right and wrong, good and bad. Though these things are often excused as universal or even extolled as virtues, broad-mindedness, tolerance, or sophistication, they can be as deadly and destroy us just as surely as any nuclear device or missile or other hardware. They constitute the true fallout, the moral fallout, against which free men must forever give battle if our freedom and its manifold blessings are to endure. The ultimate weapon for this battle is the mind, the heart, the spirit of free men. This is what Dr. Mayer and the men who worked with him think can be learned from the Korean experience. This is a lesson we must learn.